Officially, we're going to talk about the API security posture with Defender for Cloud. And we are going to cover a few of the important and hot topics today in terms of API, so stay tuned for more information. My name is Diana Grigore. I'm part of an amazing team together with Walner. I'm part of the customer experience engineering team for Defender for Cloud. And yes, very happy to be here with you today. I have been working for Microsoft for more than 8 years, but it's always as if it's a new day with everything changing. So welcome and happy to have you with us. Walner?
Hello, everyone. My name is Walner Dort. I have been working with Microsoft for about 5 years now. Actually, today makes 5 years here at Microsoft. And
Woohoo!
as Deanna said, I work alongside Deanna working on API security, specifically within Microsoft Defender for Cloud. So happy to share more about these features with you all today.
Awesome. Thank you. So today we actually have a bit of an exciting agenda around understanding the API security posture, understanding what we actually need to do in order to make this an important factor of our everyday thinking and planning as well. But it is, of course, there has to be first the question of why would we think about API security and why would we think about API in general? If for those of you who are familiar with API and the practice around this one, it is a way for any kind of application to communicate with one another. So although we do need it, the next important thing is to also have this critical focus around what is API security? How do we increase reliance on APIs? How do we understand business operations that are growing, but also make sure we're keeping track of any API related breaches? Now, the context-aware security is actually one that we need to pay close attention to. It is emerging when we're thinking about how APIs are being used today, and it is also a key driver for enhancing this overall security posture of your environment by enhancing the API security. One thing that you probably heard before, and this is true for APIs as well, we are shifting everything from traditional methods of protecting our environment to dynamic, informed approaches of how do we make our our whole environment operational, how do we understand each API request, and how do we secure that? Of course, you don't have to believe me, but we can actually take a closer look together at the numbers that will back this up. Most precisely, what has happened in the last years. We do and we can take a look at the cloud environment as this way to have remarkable scalability, agility, to introduce a lot of significant cybersecurity opportunities, but with any new opportunity, there comes a challenge as well. So with 95% of new initiatives that have been projected up until this year, the attack surface is rapidly changing, is rapidly expanding. So a few of the numbers presented here are also the average cost of a data breach, as well as percentages of web traffic driven by APIs. And you can see in here, we have 85% of it. And it's also increasing in terms of the number of web traffic and web applications. And also the pace is one that's extremely fast in terms of development. If we take a look at 2024 and the year that passed, API security is actually experiencing this pivotal shift with an extremely important focus on the context-aware security. This is actually an approach that talks about detailed analysis of how we see user behavior, how we understand the data that we need to go through, what kind of data is being accessed, and what are specific circumstances of API usage as well. So if I were to tell you a bit what is this context-aware security, this is the one that provides you this end-to-end visibility, and solution that will help you enhance the security and resilience of your environment. But also it will do so by creating an approach and a strategy against dynamic threats. So we're talking about integrating contextual insights early in the API design, not just thinking about security after. We have been using quite heavily the API infrastructure, but also continuously adapting on any security measures during deployment and operations. To talk a bit around a long journey that, and I just have a few options in here in terms of showing you the last couple of the last 4 years, you can see the impact of the API attacks. And although you have some notable data breaches in here from 2021 to last year, it's important that the number grows significantly. So although we might be talking with the Experian API attack about millions of users of credit scores, by the time that we reach that year, we can see that we're talking about 49 million customer records that led to data breaches. So if we look at the 2025 State of API Security report, this reveals that around 57% of organizations suffered API-related breaches in the past 2 years. So that also leads to around 73% of these experiences just in 2 or 3 incidents. So the traditional security solutions are failing to deliver the adequate API protection, because we have actually only 90% of organizations rating their defenses as highly effective. But at the same time, we do have an increasing use of generative AI applications. We have beyond measure, beyond what we thought about it just a couple of years ago. We are expanding the attack surface. We're actually posing new risks to APIs. And a few of the common vulnerabilities that are also present in the examples in here are talking about injection attacks, broken level object authorization, sensitive data exposure, and much more. Mentioned a bit the broken object level authorization, so not to go into too many details, but still show a bit around for the journey today. In today's digital landscape, we have APIs, which are this critical component of modern applications, but they also present unique security challenges. The OWASP API Security Top 10 is actually the one that highlights the most critical security risks that there are today to APIs. And just to give you a quick heads up of where is this conversation going, Microsoft Defender for Cloud offers a comprehensive protection over all of these risks, ensuring that APIs remain secure. So although we're going to get a bit more into details into how you are going to be able to do that with Defender for Cloud, we are talking today about effectively protecting your APIs against the OWASP API Security Top 10 risks, but not only. So we're talking, what are we going to do to enable full life cycle protection, to enable detection, response coverage for APIs, but also ensure a way to have all the critical APIs remain secure, resilient against any kind of threats. So a few of the things that I've been mentioning were around traditional ways of protecting our environment. So APIs are going to be the ones that show up in a lot of architectures. The lack of visibility over what is basically old data, where is that gap, and how is the attack path, or potentially how could an attack path look like for your environment, are important questions you need to know the answer for today. So we have critical factors that are contributing to API vulnerabilities, including poor coding practices, including misconfigurations, as you can see. But then if we look at the need to understand the business logic, there's a lot of additional vulnerabilities that can come up from the lack of understanding the business logic behind a particular offer, behind a particular application, and what would be, in our case, a baseline protection. You can imagine these are all things that attackers can exploit. When we start with API vulnerabilities, we can go from that point on and talk about extremely serious incidents that can happen at the API level. And then furthermore, of course, that affects the whole organization. So it's very important at this point of time to have a proactive approach to security, to firstly understand the environment that you have, understand what is black data, what are the gaps that I have first, and afterwards be able to respond swiftly to any kind of emerging threats. The way to do that would be the next question, of course, and that's also in terms of understanding what would be then a holistic approach to reducing risk in cloud security. So for this one, there are in here a couple of things that we can talk about when it comes to Microsoft. So if we think about integrating and looking at the various security measures, such as app security, CI/CD security, you have ways to create a more resilient development environment. If we take a look at the emphasis, or if we put a lot of focus on real-time detection and response, this is a crucial step of it. This is what will enable you to not be taken completely by surprise, but also it will allow teams to address any kind of threats before they escalate. And this is extremely important. So you have in here a few important details when it comes to how this is actually being done. And one thing to talk about it in this one and to guide you a bit through this graph is that Microsoft Defender for Cloud provides a comprehensive cloud security posture management solution and a cloud infrastructure entitlement management solution that are working together to create a way for you to take a look at holistically the whole environment. So you have as we call it CSPM, so Cloud Security Posture Management, that offers the details and visibility into the security state of all of your assets and all of your workloads by providing a lot of hardening guidance to how you can improve that security posture. The Cloud Infrastructure Entitlement Management, though, tracks accounts that could result in potential credential theft, that will help you manage cloud security policies, that will ensure compliance and keeping it up with any changing regulations. So you have in here actually a whole system, which is our CNAPP solution, as we call Defender for Cloud, as Defender for Cloud is a Microsoft CNAPP solution, which takes a lot of advantage when it comes to continuous scanning, to contextual risk scoring, automated remediation capabilities, to be able to actually tackle any kind of vulnerabilities and also take a closer look at resource allocation. So just to recap a bit on why we're talking about API security, when we take a look at APIs, they are the front door to how applications work. They are the front door also to how data can be exposed. So we need to firstly take a look at what are these for our environment, how we can protect these, and then how can we make sure that we're proactively following that security posture in terms of making sure we are safe against any emerging threats. With this, and to answer to all of these questions, you have Defender for Cloud, and more specifically, you have Defender plans, which will enable you to have a secure API management posture, starting with visibility in terms of your environment, and then taking it further in terms of the workload itself, and advanced on the security part of Defender for API, which we're gonna actually drill a bit more into in the next part. So next, I'm actually going to invite Walner to walk us a bit through then what are the plans with Defender and how we can differentiate a bit in terms of what we can use from Defender for Cloud. Walner, if you can Go ahead and show us a bit around the plans.
Yes. So, can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot for that introduction, Deanna. As you can see, Deanna laid the full layout for how exactly Microsoft approaches a CNAPP solution. One of the cornerstones of the CNAPP solution is the cloud security posture management. So as we said before, cloud security posture management is focused on giving you context and allowing you to better prioritize all of your different resources within your cloud environment. So here in cloud security posture management, we have a foundational tier, which allows you to get an understanding of all the different assets that you have within your environment, as well as provide some remediation tools. But if you look at our Defender for CSPM solution, what that allows is more in-depth capabilities for your security. So we have, as you can see, agentless vulnerability scanning. So what that allows you to do is better understand how the resources in your environment are vulnerable to known vulnerabilities out there. And as you can see, what we're adding now new to Defender for CSPM is our API security posture management solution. So what that does is now it brings in API security into your CNAPP environment at no additional cost, so that you can now have those signals help provide more context and prioritization for your most I'm sorry, for your most at-risk resources. Go to the next. So when we look at Microsoft's approach to API security, what we want to make sure that we're doing is we want to make sure we can protect, detect, and respond to all of the different threats that you have inside of your environment. So first and foremost, what you would need to do is have an understanding of where exactly are all of my APIs inside of my environment, how exactly would I classify them, and what kind of data is running through my APIs. So that you can have a understanding of your full API landscape within your cloud environment. Ooh. I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on. Next, what we want to do is we want to make sure we understand our attack paths so that we can harden our API configurations. So that is making sure that we have a better understanding of how exactly can our APIs lead to risk other places inside of our environment. And next, we want to make sure we can monitor and protect against our APIs in runtime. So what that allows us to do is send alerts for anomalous activity in our cloud environment that have to deal with our APIs as well. So as you can see, what we're introducing today, or what we recently introduced at Ignite, was that API security posture management is now available at no additional cost within your Defender for CSPM plan. So that allows you to get the posture security, that allows you to get the security posture, and it allows you to get attack paths in your environment so that you can better understand and prioritize your API security risk. It's important to note that your Azure API management APIs are right now the only ones that can take advantage of this because right now we do not have access, or we do not have capability to protect outside of Azure API management APIs. So when we talk about securing your API, when we talk about securing your APIs, specifically with security posture management, like I said before, what we want to do is make sure we gain one centralized view for all of our APIs inside of our environment. And that right there would allow us to gain an understanding of, are these APIs authenticated? How often are they being used? And what kind of data is going through our APIs? So as you can see, if we have sensitive data going through our APIs, that is something that we would be able to see that this API should probably be prioritized so that we can make sure that we can remediate those vulnerabilities that that API might be facing. So, like I said earlier, when we talk about attack paths, we want to be able to have an understanding of how exactly is this API affecting my environment? What access does this API have to other resources in my environment? Is this API exposed to the internet? What kind of vulnerabilities does this API have? So understanding how an API-led attack can affect my environment allows me to prioritize this in my environment. As Deanna mentioned earlier, we also map all of our different alerts and recommendations to the OWASP API top 10. So that allows you to have a very clear understanding of how exactly is this recommendation that you're getting gonna map to known security risk for APIs. We also provide machine learning based anomaly detections. So that allows you to use AI to get a better understanding of how patterns that are anomalous inside of your environment may be affecting your API resources. So you can prioritize those critical alerts. Also, we do provide integration with Microsoft Sentinel as well as other teams so that you can do hunting and also triage your API security risk inside of your environment as well. So we also provide the ability to test and remediate vulnerabilities for your APIs within your DevOps pipelines. So we provide tests that harden your APIs inside of your CI/CD pipelines so that you can know sooner inside of your development process how APIs can be affecting your environment. To do this, we partner with the companies that you see below, 42 Crunch, Bright Security, as well as Stackhawk, to make sure that we're able to provide these solutions to as many customers as possible. So here we have an example of how exactly an API is the front door to your environment. So as you can see, you have a user who is trying to access this API that's exposed to the internet, and this API has vulnerabilities. So when we look down the network chain, you'll be able to see that this API has access to a virtual machine that also has vulnerabilities that's used for AI. So being able to get an understanding of how exactly my API links to all of these backend resources is critical to getting an understanding of your overall API attack surface. And with that, we can show you how exactly this looks within our Defender portal. With that, I'll bring it back to Deanna to do that part, the first part of that.
Awesome. Thank you, Walner. So just a quick recap in terms of what we were discussing. Hopefully the distraction of the demo isn't too much for you. But we've been talking about why there's this need of understanding our security posture, first of all. Second of all, put a lot of emphasis on our API or on our APIs in general and how we manage those. Secondly, we were talking about how Defender for a Cloud brings this into two different plans. First of all, we have two plans when it comes to Defender CSPM, which one of them is the free tier, and then we also have a plan that will take everything that you are doing today to the next level in terms of being able to proactively manage and have actions over your environment. Then we were looking at what else you can find within the Defender CSPM plan. So not to tackle yet the Defender for API plans, which cover, of course, the next level to get to the full protection of your environment. So one of the things that we wanted to show you today is how to enable the free added at no cost feature of API posture management within the Defender CSPM plan. For that, this is the Azure portal. So going into Defender for Cloud, you will have here the overview of it, and more so in the management part, you have the environment settings. So if we go ahead and look for a particular subscription that we want to enable this from, I have a couple of them to choose from. You will see that you can drill down on the Defender CSPM plans. So the new important thing you will find in here in terms of helping you understand your API security posture will be in here. So this is API Security Posture Management, which is in public preview as we speak, and from which you can actually toggle it in terms of enabling it or disabling it right from here. This is where you need to go in order to also understand more. So you have also a shortcut in terms of learning more about what does API security posture mean, and basically understand how it will help you build on your visibility and build a secure infrastructure when it comes to securing the APIs. Bear in mind, this is the first thing that you need to do, so it's not the only thing you need to do, but I'm going to guide you a bit through what else you are going to be able to find when it comes to understanding APIs. First, I'm just going to guide you a bit through the inventory that you will find in Defender for Cloud, where you can actually see a lot more when it comes to the security posture of your whole environment. So you will see in here collected together the connected resources that you have to Defender for Cloud, meaning you'll also get to drill down on your healthy, unhealthy resources. You are going to be able to filter down and create a particular view based on the resources that you want to take a closer look at. So in my case, whenever you want to drill down in your API environment, make sure to go ahead and select the API resources. So I have in here API management, also API management operation service, API connection, which are some of the examples that I can show you already today in terms of understanding what you already have in your environment. You will see right from here the scope included, the environment, whether you have Defender for Cloud enabled or not, and then drilling more into each of these, you'll get to the recommendations and the resource health of all the inventory assets you have. So as you can see, you will have, depending on the resource type, I have an API management service right here. You will see any recommendations, you will see the risk level associated with this one. And then again, the status, of course, which is extremely important, and the alerts that are associated. Additional things that you will find are also in here in the resource recommendation parts in the left side. And also if you have any alerts, basically an overview of that particular resource. Of course, drilling down into that data, you can get to additional details for each of these. So make sure you do, first of all, understand your API infrastructure, starting with what do I have already in my environment. The second part that is extremely important is the recommendations part. So the recommendations basically provide you this comprehensive view of your security posture and the understanding of that when it comes to your resources. And for that, you will get to see that you have a recommendations page in here, which basically guides you on where you need to look at first. You will see the connected resources right from here. So you will have also an overall security state, getting a summary of the whole security state of any of your connected clouds. And here we're talking Azure, AWS, GCP resources. But then additionally drill down and information specific into the security recommendations and alerts by also providing you with the risk prioritization. So you will be able to drill down right from here in terms of the recommendations details, the risk level and the risk factors, together with also the attack paths that are associated to each of the recommendations, specific owners for each, what's the status in regards to that recommendation, and then additional insights. You will see right from here, you have a quick glance over the whole Defender CSPM plan and what's that bringing to the table, together also with numbers when it comes to key metrics. So again, in here, you are able to drill down upon the data from the recommendations, so to take a closer look at API-specific recommendations. So if we actually go into one and take a closer look at what you will be able to find in here, Defender CSPM will enhance on the visibility that you have upon any kind of, starting with low risk recommendations, what else you need to think about and prioritize. This is one of the examples in terms of APIs that should be authenticated in Azure API management, and will show you in terms of the remediation, the step-by-step guidance in terms of where you need to go to remediate those. There are also options right from here in terms of delegating this. Whenever we're talking about connecting it to third-party solutions or to ServiceNow, for example, to be able to assign that recommendation to the right owner, as you were seeing in my dashboard before, but also options in terms of an automation. So creating a logic app that will trigger with that particular recommendation. Options for exemption are also present in here. You can also see general details and descriptions specifically about the recommendation in place. And this is a clear example also of the recommendations and the actions you can have over the API management when it comes to OWASP and the top 10 API security risks. So make sure to check all of the information above. All of the information actually in your portal, and also get to take a closer look at the risk, the tactics, techniques when it comes to risk factors, but also additional information when it comes to the resources that you want to drill down more into. That being said, again, this is just some quick ways to get a glance at how do you enable API posture management, which is now added at no cost in the Defender CSPM plan, but how to take a closer look at the inventory when it comes to your API collection, but also take it further in terms of the proactive approach and understanding what else you need to do to tighten that security posture management. Next, I'm also going to let Walner show us a bit around how to take it actually to the next level and how to go from understanding the API security posture management to how to monitor those in real time, how to proactively test, fix vulnerabilities, and how to assess and prevent the sensitive data. Walner, the floor is yours. I think you're on mute. Yes, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Thanks a lot, Deanna.
No worries.
So just like Deanna just said, if we want to get better to understand our API attack surface, what we should use is our attack path tools. So if we go into our attack path section here within Defender for Cloud, and then we go to add a filter, we can filter all of our different resources to get a better understanding of, our APIs. So we would click on all of our different API resources, and then it would provide us a list of the different attack paths that we have within our environments focused on APIs. So here you can see we have an attack path that says we have a critical internet exposed API that is unauthenticated and it carries sensitive data. So if we click inside of this, we'll be able to get more information on exactly what that means. We have a graph here that shows how exactly the data is moving about our environment, and it shows exactly what information each one of these endpoints contains. So as you can see here, we have an Internet Exposed API management operation. And if we click on here, we'll be able to also look in to see some of the insights that we have for this API management operation. And if you look in here, we're able to see that it has, one, it's exposed to the internet, and two, it contains sensitive data. And we're also able to see what exact kind of sensitive data that it contains. So as you can see here, we have a US passport number, and now we know that this is something that we will probably want to prioritize in remediating first and foremost. So if we go to recommendations, we can see exactly how we can go about remediating and resolving this within our environment. Yeah. Next, if we look into our Cloud Security Explorer, this is a tool that we can use to prioritize even further which resources that we want to focus on remediating and providing protections to inside of our environment. So this allows us to search for specific resources with specific vulnerabilities. So there's two ways we can go about this. We can either go in and search by each one of these different categories that we have to find an exact kind of vulnerability that we're looking for within our environment, or we can scroll down to these different templates that we have to also help us get a better understanding of some things that we might want to be cautious of in our environment. So if you can see here regarding APIs, we have Internet exposed APIs endpoints with sensitive data, and we have APIs communicating over unencrypted protocols with unauthenticated API endpoints. So if I click on this, what it does is it automatically creates this query for me. And then I can click this search button here, and what it will do is find all the different resources that meet these criteria. Oh, let me do this instead. I will go, if I want to know and have a better understanding of the different API endpoints that I have in my environment that are exposed to the internet and that contain sensitive data, then I can search inside of my environment here, and then you will have a list of different APIs that meet that criteria. And then when you click into more details, you'll be able to see the same kind of information, like what kind of sensitivity labels do we have inside of this API, and how exactly we can go about remediating. Just to give another example of this, we also want to show how APIs being a critical entry point into your environment, being able to have an understanding of what kind of resources do these APIs route to in the back end. So if you can see here, if we follow this query chain, you'll be able to see that what I want to find out is how many APIs do I have in my environment that are exposed to the internet and have a connection to a virtual machine that is used for AI and or has vulnerabilities. So if I search for that query, you can see here in my environment, now I have a better understanding and I can see all the different APIs that have a connection to a virtual machine that's used for AI and has vulnerabilities in my environment. So you can also always go into more details and see exactly which resource is the resource in question, as well as all the different parts of the network that this API, that the data flows through this API. And last but not least, what we will want to show is for your API security in general, we have these workbooks. So these workbooks allow you to get a better understanding in the dashboard of your overall API environment so that you can visualize better your API security posture. So if you can see here in this overview tab, you can see all of your different recommendations as well as your alert status for all of the different API security events and resources in your environment. If you click through, you'll be able to see how many coverage you have, um, recommendations, like I said, data sensitivity, as well as your alerts and threat detection. But that sums up our demo for API security. So we're more than happy to answer any questions you all might have on what we presented today.
Great, thank you all so much. We do have one question in the queue right now. What type of telemetry or logs are used to provide data sensitivity recommendations?
So data sensitivity is one provided by Microsoft Defender CSPM has tools that embedded within it that can provide sensitivity labels to data that is inside of your environment, as well as we connect to Microsoft Purview, which allows you yourself to provide sensitivity labels inside of your environment that can allow us to know better when sensitive data is attached to any one of your resources.
That's great. Thank you so much, Walner. I think that's all we have. No new questions have come in, so we will go ahead and wrap up. Thank you so much, Deanna and Walner, for being our guests and for sharing such great information with our community. Also, thank you to the Q&A team behind the scenes who helped us to answer questions along the way. To all the listeners still on the line, if you're someone who wishes to aid in the protection of the world from cyber threats and desires to have a say in shaping our strategies, blueprints, and recommendations, then we invite you to become part of our security community. Together, we can make a global impact. So join us at aka.ms/securitycommunity. This is also where you'll be notified about upcoming webinars, events, and other announcements. For those of you who may have additional questions on the topic or other product-related questions, you can raise them on our Microsoft Tech Community discussion space at aka.ms/mdccommunity. Thank you all for being part of our community and for joining us on these webinars. We hope to see you next time. Goodbye.
Thank you everyone for joining.